Hello, this pair of things here makes up the official alternate build, or B model, for the 2025 rebooted Blacktron Renegade set from LEGO. So all of this here is made with official LEGO instructions from the parts from one single Blacktron Renegade from the Icons line, and it's inspired very, very heavily by the original Alienator, which was from the first original classic Blacktron line, the large walker mech thing. This is once again a walker mech thing, and it's basically the cockpit of the Renegade, the new Renegade, plus its engines, and then the entire body rebuilt into something entirely different, which is able to articulate. And then you also get this side build as well. So you get two mechs out of it. But of course, I'm going to start with the main thing first, get you some just general looks at this, and then I'll show you its features that are independent and unique to it relative to the Renegade ship. A lot of it is very familiar looking. You can definitely imagine this thing being able to fly, especially since it still has the big thrusters there. But the big deal here is that it has the legs. The funny thing is, the way this is built, you build legs for it, you build feet for it, and then you build shoes as well. It kind of has soles down here that get added on separately. Now here's how you move it. This is a classic move from the olden golden days of LEGO. And yeah, it just shimmies along. It just shimmies along. It's not a bad look, actually. And it's pretty smooth. You can either grab just from up here and kind of do it like this, or you can move the feet individually, however you want to do that. But look at that. See, it just shimmies back and forth. For the most part, the body stays front and back. It doesn't rotate a lot unless you're rotating it yourself. So you can still kind of make it turn as it goes if you want to, but just by default, it almost feels like magic the way that it's pretty much floating there. And that's basically just done with two parallel equal length Technic bricks going across right here, kind of in the waist or hip area. And it's just really straightforward because they're just rotating on pins. To me personally, this especially looks good from the back as a retro walker. I could just imagine this being from a 16-bit MechWarrior game or something like that. But as you rotate it around, you start to see more of the more modern build style of the cockpit section especially. And then the center of the upper hull has very little stud coverage on it. I mean, that's all nicely smoothed off. You can still use these little mini kit power units here. They can just be popped off like that. Again, that's just from the original build. These here are also from the original build. So they're just the little speeders. You can just fold the wings out or bring this down. Now you've got two studs right there to put a figure or a robot down in there. Again, works exactly like the main Renegade build. Same thing once again goes for the engines back here. These are literally the same modules that were used. And then this here was the front module from the side pod. You can also again take this off because that's the same thing. This is 100% the original build once again, and that just leaves you with the core that is unique. All of this here is just built from the center, the non-modular section, the main fuselage of the Renegade. When you build this, you open up, I think it's 2 or 3 bags, one at a time, to build these other modules, and then you open up all the rest of the bags at one time. So you have to sort out pieces, which is a very common thing for alternate builds. So I wasn't particularly surprised by that. I personally don't like doing that, but it's completely common. Even just Creator 3-in-1s require you to do your own sorting if you want to, or you just have a giant pile of parts. It just takes longer to find pieces. This gives you this nice little section in here, which the original did not. I wish that the original gave you this, maybe with an optional cover over it, because it's a good little cargo or lab module. It has some of the printed consoles in there and space for at least one figure. Maybe if you take the air tanks off, you might be able to just squeeze 2 in there. But of course, you can attach any of the different modules here or back here if you want to start going asymmetric. That one's not quite going to work. It's not quite going to fit in there, but you could put this on the back. Taking this, stripping it down, brings you just to this. Now, I will point out that there is something about this that's not the most durable, and that is, ironically, the Technic connections, which are similar to what LEGO used to use for these sets to make connections between different modules. You've got just one pin here and one pin here. Those are rotation points. Sorry about that, right up in there. And when you have everything on here, this tends to get loose. It's very front heavy, and look, It just separates right there. So that tends to pop up like that. You may have already actually seen that earlier because the whole thing is just leaning forward. All of this here is angled forward just a little bit as the gap starts to form here. Now, this is not going to fall apart or anything. Goes farther, goes farther, goes farther. It's still holding together enough. And as soon as you grab this, you're pretty much just going to push that back. But I did want to point out that that is one point of weakness unless you turn it into a strength by simply doing this. What? Now, this is not an official thing that they suggest you do, but I think it's a brilliant thing that you can do. They should have suggested it because this actually looks good. Let's see. How about this? If I bring these out, does that help at all, or does that hurt? Maybe bring these back here. Does that help or hurt? I'm not sure. Either way, this is a legitimate alternate flyer, I think, and having this and looking at this as a play feature to take this whole, I mean, it's got everything you need to be a spaceship. Just go ahead and fly with that. This is just your discardable landing legs or your reusable landing legs come in for a landing. And depending upon which pin stays behind, you do have to kind of line it up. But, ultimately just find the spot, put those back in there, and you can walk around. When you're ready to fly again, this is just so easy because it just pops right off just like that. I like this quite a bit. I might even like this better than it combined with the legs because, the legs, they're cool. They're different and they've got the little connection to history, the old set, but this just looks better to me. Now, let's not discount the Mini Walker because this is a completely legitimate full-on build itself. There's only one thing that I don't like about it, and that's the visibility of the blue pin on either side. Gosh dang it. I'm so tired of seeing blue pins on the outsides of things, but at least this is an alternate build and it's very easy to just swap those out. If you're going to keep this, in this form, as a matter of fact, the spares might even have enough, just the shorter pins that'll work with this. But this also has the ability to articulate its legs just forward and back the same kind of way, just a little bit of shimmy on either side. A little bit of limitation to how far they will go forward and back, which totally makes sense. This only articulates up and down. This only articulates up and down, but you also have this here. And you can take the top part of that off and use it as a minifigure accessory. We've got another clip over here on the side as well that you can use. And the cockpit is fully usable by the little robot or by a minifig. So I just didn't have that all the way attached down in there. I actually don't recommend attaching it fully to the ground because sometimes the base will just come off. But you can see they used a couple of the printed bricks in there, which is smart. It's a good texture, good classic, retro texture and decoration to have forward. So this thing, I think, is nice and it's good that it exists. It was a good inclusion and a nice use of some of the extra pieces. Speaking of extra pieces, oof, this is a large mass of stuff that's left over from the set. Honestly, the number of smallish pieces left over compared to what we started with is not bad. Like this felt pretty satisfying when I dumped these in here until I added the larger pieces, which I had kept out separately. This is a lot. This is a lot of just bulk, and to not even use these, I love these pieces personally. So this gives you, and especially with the limited number of colors here, this gives you a ton of stuff to work with to further customize or to try to come up with an additional small structure build off to the side easily. There's plenty of stuff here. You've got some studs on the side parts. You've got some regular bricks. It's definitely a great parts pack to continue the work going forward of doing something different from the original model. On the topic of the original model, I have already seen a number of people saying they prefer the look of this alternate model to the revamped Renegade itself, especially folks who prefer the original Renegade to this. I mean, this is bigger and much stronger and everything, but for folks who are nostalgic to the original, this might not hit all the notes. Whereas this isn't trying to be the original Renegade. It's also not trying to be the Alienator. It's kind of its own thing. And it's very successful at that. I feel if you look at this, if you imagine this being the A model, if you imagine this being the original, the main thing that you're buying, and then you just end up with a big old parts pack to do custom stuff, like I said, a little small base or a lab or something on the surface, maybe even a vehicle, given that the tires are left behind. I can definitely see that being worth it. You just have this front heaviness issue that could be addressed potentially, or like I said, just roll with it and lean into it more. Make this basically just a walking platform, a walking landing platform for the major flyer up here. But I personally still like this. However, this plus all the extra parts is definitely something worth thinking about. Of course, I've already done my full review of the Renegade main build, and I'll probably be doing some additional content regarding comparisons and possibly, hopefully, some modifications as well, because I really do feel inspired to try to do something. The only question is, will I have enough time to squeeze that in there between everything else that I need to do? But for now, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Hope that this provided some value to you. Especially thank you to my Patreon supporters who have helped me out so much in the past 5 years. And I will talk to you again soon. Bye for now.